Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Independent Street Tarot and Seasons of Ritual, and I wanted to talk about Mars being in Scorpio right now, three-eye atlas that's rolling through our solar system, and kind of touch on slightly this address that we just had in America with Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump um, talking to all these generals here. And the reason that this is coming up is because of this Mars and Scorpio and where I see where we are as a society and where we're going. Because um, as you guys know, I believe that we are in this age of Aquarius. And if you don't know, now you do. I do believe that we are in this age of Aquarius, and I do see the patriarchal society um, ending, right, and moving more back to a matriarchal society. And let me just make this really clear. When I say a patriarchal society is ending, it is this idea of what patriarchy stands for, which is, power, top-down power, force, might makes right. Um, and this is, I'm just trying to get the cliff notes here. And then the idea of a matriarchal society is leading with, compassion, empathy, understanding, um, from that side, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that all of a sudden all our leaders become women. Or, you know, I don't think that there are men that don't have any sort of that matriarchal side, right? So that's when we talk about like realignment and our divine masculine and feminine working together. So you have that balance instead of being out of balance, like you're either all female or you're all male. That messes with us energetically. But it is this idea of that you embody both these sides, but you do come from a side, where you understand, like you would understand that you do have privilege, that you do understand society is built in a way that does put other people on a pedestal and others, okay? And it doesn't mean that you just break down and you can't keep going forward. But you do understand this, right? You do understand. So when you are making conscious decisions, and it really started just dawning on me lately, the idea of, they use the word woke. And it wasn't until I was watching a Bulwark episode of the FY Pod where they had this guy named Jared on there, and he's from Tennessee and he works for the Bulwark and he went to Ole Miss. Um, and so he was just saying like he understood like there's consequences to actions, and because he knows that, then he's being labeled as woke. And so it's really interesting how how the patriarchal, however you want to say it, oligarchical 1%, however, has co-opted that term to take away the idea of just being accountable for your actions. You understand that if you lose your temper and you scream at someone, it might hurt their feelings, right? And so like you're like, oh, I get that. So then you're like held accountable, like, oh, maybe I should keep my temper in check, right? Um, so anyway, but the fact is like they try to push this narrative that certain people can scream, yell, be mean, demean. And it's all about taking away power, right? It's all about taking away personal power. And putting those hierarchy steps in place. And so, you know, and you can see this, well, I can say, and I can see this working out, like the idea that, a lot of people voted for the current president, and all he has done is taken away their power, right? And that's how this works. Because when side with someone that you think is going to stick up for you or help you or push your agenda that you think is important, and then they start taking away your power, that puts you into shame, that puts you into embarrassment, that's humiliating, and that's how patriarchy takes power away from people. It doesn't matter if you're white. It doesn't matter if you're black. It doesn't matter if you're brown. It doesn't matter if you're female. It doesn't matter if you're male. It doesn't matter what your pronouns are. That's how patriarchal power works. It's about taking away power. Like again, it's about taking away power. It's about making you feel ashamed. It's about making you feel, you can't trust what you thought, right? It's a lot of gaslighting. And so we're in this shift now where everyone, I'm just going to, and I am using a lot of blanket statements here, and I apologize, but I kind of just want to get uh, the main idea about this out. And then we can always talk about it in finer points later. But it is this idea of getting everyone to this point of feeling disempowered. And whether you voted for this administration or not, it's really important for us to start realizing that. And a lot of people talk about, fuck around and find out season. Okay, well, it's already come and gone, and this is where we're at. And if we can start seeing this is how patriarchy works, right? And we can start understanding that the other, right? Because the other, and the other as in make, someone who voted for, this president. This is how this works. They want them to feel disempowered, right? They want them to feel ashamed. They want them to feel embarrassed. They want them to feel like they can't ask for help. Okay. And so this is where we're at. This is where we're at in America for sure. And so, and so the idea of like the divine masculine is this masculine that just, the divine masculine understands and fosters the divine feminine right within them. And they see that as a gift and they see that as working together, that as being in alignment, right? Both sides working together. And so that divine feminine energy would come in that says, you can use compassion, you can be empathetic, and then this is how we, move forward. But at the same time, it's not about feeling insecure. It's not about, like the idea is we learn lessons, right? We learn and we move forward. So you can be empathetic towards someone's plight, okay? But that doesn't mean that you um stop how you're living. That doesn't mean, that you don't uh keep learning or you think you're worse or less than. You learn that lesson from that. Like, okay, we should have learned a lesson from slavery. We should have learned a lesson from how we treated the Native Americans, okay? That should just be part of our natural fabric moving forward, okay? That wasn't good, right? And can I get really upset that my ancestors may have been in that or haven't, but it happened. But it's this idea of that, we don't have to keep going in and conquering things like that was set as a precedent. Okay, just being aware of when you go in and you conquer or unalive millions of people, the trauma all these things cause. Like we can see this. We've seen world wars, we've seen tiny wars, we've seen, violence in our community. Okay, it's not good. Okay, so when I talk about that divine masculine energy or matriarchal energy, it's just this energy of working from those ideas of, compassion, empathy, nurturing, balance. Okay. That matriarchal energy still has the masculine energy in it. Okay. It's not patriarchal. It's not top down. So today we had Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump have all these generals come to Quantico and they gave this speech. Okay. It's going to resonate with some, it's not going to resonate with others. But this is an important crossroad because, and I think a lot of us can see this, and the reason I'm coming on is because I don't want us to go into fear. And you can get scared, and it's okay to have fear, right? But that's like the number one tool of the patriarchy, right? To keep you scared, to keep you feel disempowered, to make you feel like all your rights are going away, and then to make you feel stupid because you voted for this in the first place, right? And so we've got to kind of shift this around. And I remember reading a comment because like people like Adam Kinzinger came on and he was like talking about like, the male loneliness epidemic, and it's up to females to come in and try to balance this. And and the thing is this, you if you don't have to, okay? Men or however you want to say have to start taking responsibility for themselves and their actions and understanding that. And when that happens, things will come into balance a lot quicker. Okay. It doesn't mean you have to be, mean to men. And it doesn't mean you have to, because we've been trying to nurture this, but we're all living under patriarchal rule. So what has happened, females have gone to college, they've gotten jobs, they've taken responsibility for themselves in a sense. And so the masculines or men or however you want to see it have to start doing the same. We're at this crossroad. So, but this person put in a comment and it said, "I'm so tired of having empathy for people who literally hate me." Okay. And that stuck out to me. And so if you're feeling like that, if you're like, fuck this, I'm not doing this shit, fuck, yeah, fuck those people that voted for Donald, there's a lot of F words flying around to that other person. Okay. I'm not gonna show them empathy uh because you don't feel like it works or it's a waste of time. Totally valid. That's totally valid. At the same time, the way that I would gently suggest putting that empathy into the universe, if you will, or sowing those seeds, is having empathy for yourself first. You know, give yourself a break. Of course, I feel like this. Of course, I feel like I don't want to help those people. Project 2025 was out there and they refused to listen. Of course, I don't want to feel like I want to go and help men. What have they done to me? We're in this situation because men have been ruling for dozens of years, right? But you show yourself that empathy first and, you know, understand that people don't hate you. People, and it's okay if you feel like that, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth. Things are shaped, right, in order to get certain narratives off. And it's important to find those little pieces where something didn't fit that narrative, right? So, I could say like all men, why would I want to help men? They fucking hate women, right? Um, and but I would have to find that narrative. And I'm only saying this if you can find it in your heart. Don't make yourself feel like you have to do this or you have to do that. But I'm just trying to open a hole here so we can understand, empathy. But we have to show it to the self first, right? We are, to me, in this age of Aquarius, okay? And the age of Aquarius is about moving forward. So the fact that they're renaming things like the Department of War, it's not going to hold. It's not, like it could be until this guy leaves. But we can't go backwards. That's why it seems like so outdated. Pledging allegiance to one person, like it doesn't hit. This is a bigger lift than I think they think, and we really need to understand that because it goes back to this thread of seeing things individually instead of trying to see things as a whole, right? You want to put the energy in to yourself first and then the community, yourself first and community. That's that energy of Aquarius, right? So, as a whole, you can see fill in the blank. Okay, you can do it. But energetically, when you think about, oh, well, actually, I have a couple good friends and, you know, they're men and, we get along and we think these things. Okay, so that's all it takes to start punching holes in the patriarchal authoritarian playbook, right? It's just remembering that one time when something didn't fit their main objective, okay? That's what starts things spinning in a different direction. And that's where we want things to start going. So It's really important, right, to stay conscious in this times. It is really no different. The energy is really no different than when we went through COVID. And for, those first 2 weeks, we all thought we were going to die. And I remember that because my friends were texting and calling me nonstop, like, what is happening? What is this? And the energy was super unstable, right? At this time, though, the energy is more stable. It's just that we have kind of like a facade, trying to go backwards and clutch on to what is no longer here. And two things about this. We are coming out of the Kali Yuga, okay? And also we are in this age of Aquarius. So we can't go backwards, no matter how hard these people try. And look, there's always going to be assholes, okay? It doesn't matter where you come from or what your sexual orientation is or what you look like. There's just assholes in the world that are mean, okay? But we don't need to keep blanket stating these as a people or a movement. Like if you go to a freedom of speech rally, if people go to rally, it is anyone and everyone, friends, okay? And we need to remember that. We need to remember that. So let's talk a little bit about Three-Eye Atlas coming through, which is really neat at this time. So it's an interstellar space object, which means it came from deep space. They really don't know where it came from, which I think is so cool. And this thing is huge. It's like almost as big as the sun. Okay, so coming through. It's coming through on our ecliptic. Um, it could have been traveling through space for 10,000 years. Like they have no idea. Okay, so we have this new messenger coming in. Um, when amateur astronomers look at it, it looks like the tail is in front of it, which doesn't make any sense. But then when, um, I don't want to say legit astronomers, but like space centers look at it, the tail looks like it's behind it. They can't explain why that is. It's the color green. They can't explain why that is. And so on the third, it's going to fly by Mars. And so all the little rovers and everything that's on Mars, they're going to position so they can watch Three-Eye Atlas go by, which I just think is so cute. Okay. But Mars is that masculine energy. Mars is in Scorpio right now. Mars is the ancient ruler of Scorpio and the modern ruler of Aries. And right at this time that we're having this talk, I don't know what you call it, at Quantico, Neptune, which rules Pisces, okay, um, which is mutable water, Scorpio's fixed water. Neptune is at 0 degrees of Aries, which is a karmic turning point. Okay, so maybe we'll turn it this way. It's a karmic turning point. And Mars is in Scorpio. Mars is in its ancient Mars was the ancient ruler of the sign and the current ruler of Aries. And at 0 degrees of Aries, which is a karmic turning point, Neptune is at 0 degrees. Neptune rules Pisces, okay? Pisces is the ending and the beginning. It's that alpha and omega. It's also another water sign, which is a feminine sign. Scorpio is a feminine sign. Um, the way that I see Three-Eye Atlas coming in out of nowhere, coming in hot, as I like to say, coming out of nowhere, glowing green. Green is the heart chakra, and it goes right near Mars, right? That's the first one it hits. It's already been, there's been some solar flares, right? So, which is also that divine masculine energy, the sun, that's masculine. So the comet, I guess it's a comet. They're calling it an interstellar object. So anyway, Three-Eye Atlas has been energized, right, by this masculine energy of the sun. It's bringing in new energy from outer space. Keep that in mind. It's bringing in new energy because they don't know what this thing is. They don't know where it's not in our normal asteroid belt, okay? It's glowing green for God's sakes. And it's going to go right past Mars first. So Mars is going to absorb heart space energy because it's glowing green, right? It's coming in with new messages. And then on the 6th, we have a full moon. The full moon is in Aries. Okay. And so I see this as a rebalancing. We're in Libra season. Okay. So when we have full moons, right, the sun and the moon are opposite. So the sun is in Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus. Okay. The moon's going to be in Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars. All right. So we have masculine sun in Libra, Libra ruled by Venus, balancing that out. We have the moon, feminine energy of the moon in Aries, masculine energy of Aries, right? And so they're going to be reflecting on each other. So to me, this is a huge shifting point of um, more of bringing in that balance of that masculine and feminine, which is where we need to be in order for this realignment to keep happening. Okay. And I'm really sorry that they are um, doing all this stuff with the military and might makes right. It's really these last grasps. And, it's important to remember that as this stuff keeps unfolding. It's not like they're going to listen to my YouTube video and be like, well, we tried. Oops. Meh, okay. But it's really important for us as humans to understand we have a lot of support cosmically, and it's important for us to get back in touch with that divine masculine side of ourselves, right? To grow up that side of ourselves so it meets that divine feminine. And it doesn't mean you have to go, and it really does not mean you have to go outside of yourself to find this. This is about us as individuals realigning, um, coming into ourselves, right? Again, this age of Aquarius. Pluto, um, Pluto that now rules Scorpio, okay? Pluto now rules Scorpio, is retrograde in Aquarius, right? And on the 13 degrees, I mean, at 13 degrees, on the 13th of October, it'll station to go back, uh, it'll go station, so it's out of retrograde, okay? So Scorpio energy is still coming into play with this age of Aquarius, Mars and Scorpio, ancient ruler, Pluto's Scorpio's present day ruler, Aries, present day ruled by Mars. It is all this rebalancing of this masculine and feminine energy. So it's important for us to realize that and start celebrating that in ourselves. And once we start getting realigned, that's what changes these ripple effects. Okay. That's what keeps things moving forward. Okay. And it doesn't mean that we might get scared, just like we got scared during COVID, right? We might get scared because we think we don't have any control, but we do. And that control is over us and within ourselves. And if you feel good and you feel aligned, and you want to go check on your neighbor, go check on your neighbor. If you feel good and you feel aligned and you want to reach out and call your friend and be like, hey, you okay? I was texting my friend in Portland the other day, and I was like, damn, girl, I didn't realize you guys were at war because I know that they're not, right? And those are the things that we have to remember. So when authoritarianism starts collapsing on itself, the things that it put in its place to prop it up, it can't hold it. So, and I told her because I live in New Orleans and she lives in Portland, I was like, no one believes there's a war in Portland. Okay, and so on one hand, that media blackout is working against them because they have to show things from 2020 and, Black Lives Matters protests. But no one believes there's a war, like just like no one believed there was anything going on in Chicago, and now the National Guard's going to come to New Orleans, and we're all sitting. There's nothing going on here. They're going to go to Baton Rouge. Nothing's going on there, and they're going to go to Shreveport. Nothing going on there. Yes, do we have crime? Yes, but nothing, nothing to bring in the National Guard over. So, it's important that we remember this. It's important that we stay vigilant. It's important that we have to take time outs with ourselves. But this Mars and Scorpio is going to be very prevalent, especially going into October. Pluto, which rules Scorpio, again, is going to be very prevalent because it's about to turn direct on the 13th. But Mars and Scorpio and Aries having Neptune at 0 degrees before it retrogrades back into Pisces. And Neptune's going to be in Pisces retrograde along with Saturn in Pisces. And that Saturn in Pisces is really holding space for us because water signs, when they are at their lower vibes, it's really about like addiction and delusion. And so we're going to start seeing that pop back up, not because it's re-emerging on the planet, but because we keep vibrating higher. And so when we start vibrating higher, when they talk about like the veil being dropped or seeing through things, we're going to start seeing pockets of this pop back up. So we're going to start seeing more pockets of narcissism pop back up, probably delusion, you know, well, you can see the delusion on a grand stage, but like addiction. So make sure you check in with your friends because one of the things, lower vibes of Aquarians is feeling like you're alone, like you're the lone wolf, no one gets you. So checking in on your neighbors, seeing what's going on. Um, Right now, Mercury is at 20 degrees of Libra. So, speaking balance, Venus right now is at 13 degrees of Virgo. So, she's in conjunction with the South Node. The South Node is what we're leaving behind. So, we're leaving behind in Virgo being a martyr, okay, and constantly trying to figure things out. And we need to remember that as all this bullshit's happening. First and foremost, Venus in Virgo is very practical. And she's not gonna be a martyr. Like, okay, no, I'm not doing this, you guys. I'm not. So that's not helping this message of might makes right, right? Because you have to um kind of lay down your arms and be like, okay, I'll put myself on the cross to make a point. And Venus and Virgo is like, no, that's just not necessary. And it's not like a combative. That's not necessary. It's literally just practical, state of the, state and facts like this. It's just not necessary. Like we don't need to do that. We're past that. Um, and so she's at 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. They'll be in exact on the 18, 19, 20, 20. So she's going to be in conjunction with the South Node for a minute here, so that's good. Okay, that's keeping us practical, especially this feminine side of us, that divine feminine, because femininity is also a warrior, right? The masculine side's also a warrior, but how they go about warring is just in different vibrations, and that's what, to me, Mars and Scorpio is getting back into. Um, the spiritual warrior, right? It doesn't mean like the low vibe, like hot-headed warrior. It's not like it's just poof gone, right? Because we're clearing out this energy, but it's important for us to see both sides of this, which is good. The sun's in Libra, right? Bringing in this balance so we can see both sides. We can see what they're trying to make us do versus what's really going to work. Mars is sextiling the midheaven right now, and that calls for cooperation. When Mars is sextiling the midheaven right now, it you can't have might makes right, okay? Because that's not the energy that we're in anymore. Okay, Mars is also squaring Pluto right now. Okay, so Mars is in Scorpio. And then it's squaring Pluto, who's in Aquarius. Pluto used to rule, or no, Pluto now rules Scorpio. So when we are in those squares, it's all about building blocks. And again, this is about our desires. So you could see the desire of a part of the population really wants this, okay? But it can't happen because it needs cooperation, right? And I mean, cooperation, not like a few people cooperating, but like cooperation. It can't happen if it's like, this is what we're doing, this is what you need to do, this is how it's going to go forward, right? Venus and Virgo conjunct the South Node. Like, no, we don't actually need that. That's not good for the whole. So that can't happen. Um, so I really want you guys to understand we have a lot of cosmic support to not spiral into authoritarianism as much as we already have. And I know that I come on a lot and I say this, and if you look outside, you're like, oh my God, but like the news every day, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Okay. Also about the news, because you guys know, like I talk about the Bulwark, I watch the Bulwark, and I watch other things too. I jump around. I obviously don't watch Fox News, but they're always going to kind of push things to the way that they want that narrative to go, just like the way that I see astrology, right? Because and listen, let me tell you, I was looking really hard. I was like Mars and Scorpio, really, and like so Mars used to rule Scorpio, and then it's like rules Aries. So I was doing a lot of research, like tell me how this can fit into the authoritarian playbook, right? How does this go? Like because it's this energy. And the part that kept coming back up, where it was like it can't fall into that, is because we're in this age of Aquarius. Maybe if we were still in the age of Pisces, or if we were in another age, if we were still in that Kali Yuga, it could totally dive down this area of authoritarianism. But we're not there anymore. Energetically, we're just not. So trust me, you guys. My rising's Gemini, so I try to see both sides because I wouldn't come on here and just bullshit you, quite honestly, because what they're presenting looks really scary. It does. And being in a city that's gonna get occupied sometime soon isn't like the best. It's a kind of a fucking bummer, right? Um, but knowing that we have tools and what's really important is about checking in with the self, getting ourselves aligned, not going down the whole rabbit hole, right? Even if on a whole, you're not really hyped about dudes right now and where they are and how they're acting, okay? But it's important to see the parts where you made friends or you are friends or you have someone in your life um, that does do more divine masculinity stuff, same with masculines. You got to find those other friends that are do more female-y stuff, or find the people that are more aligned, have the same beliefs as you, do want us all to get along in a sense, do want that, does want healing and however that looks, right, to come onto the planet. Um, and just not feed into all the fear and all the bullshit, right? It doesn't mean things aren't going to be hard or scary or unsure, but they were like that before and we got through it. And so they're like this now and we're going to get through it. This age of Aquarius is this cosmos, right? It's the cosmos, and we have the whole cosmos out there to bring in new information. And what do we have right now? Three-eye Atlas coming in from deep space, somewhere in the cosmos. No idea where this thing came from. No idea. Okay, like I said, it could have been traveling for millions of light years. We don't know. But here it comes. It's about to blaze past Mars, and then it will go by Venus, um, and then maybe the sun and then maybe Mercury and Jupiter. I can't remember. I was listening to Heather yesterday. She had it all laid out, so you guys could go listen to her. And in the way that, and I will say that, well, I was gonna say in the way she sees the chakras, the way I see them coincide differently with different planets, which is just fine. But the idea is in the stage of Aquarius, we're looking for new energy to come in. We answer old questions with new ideas. Three-eye Atlas coming in, first thing it goes by is Mars. Mars is in Scorpio. It's bringing in new energy. Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries, karmic turning point. Um, it is about going into the heart, and the way that we do that is one day at a time. It is about forgiving ourselves for thinking super terrible thoughts about other people because, and have compassion with yourself. Of course, I think that about them. All I see on the news is that they're saying this about me, but I love myself and I have compassion and empathy for thinking about that. And I forgive myself for thinking those terrible thoughts. And that's all you do. You keep forgiving the self. You keep forgiving the self. And if by chance, the more you forgive yourself, I will say this, by grace, it will forgive the other. But you don't have to. There's no way I'm going to tell somebody who's been affected by violence, you have to forgive so and so. Nope, that's not why I'm here in life. But I can tell you, you can forgive yourself for, you know, thinking shitty thoughts about people. Sorry, forgiveness. Of course I think that. It's okay. I love myself anyway, right? The more you think about that, you can still love yourself. That's what's important. This age of Aquarius is about the individual first and then the collective. And we've got to get ourselves aligned. And the way that we align ourselves is telling ourselves we love ourselves every day, right? Warts and all, as my mom would say. Okay, guys, I'm gonna leave it at there. Reach out to your friends and neighbors. Tell yourself you love yourself every day. I'm wearing my green shirt. My sister gave me this shirt, right? Because 3i Atlas, whatever, coming in hot from outer space is glowing green, and that is that heart chakra. And it's going to touch Mars because what we need inside of us is that courage. What we need inside of us is to lead with compassion and with empathy. What we need are leaders and we need what we need is leaders. And the way we get there is having that masculine and feminine being aligned and showing up as one, right? That divine feminine energy came roaring in. It's not going anywhere, right? That Me Too movement that came back, she's not going anywhere. But it's always like, we got to match energy. Okay, we need this to match energy, right? So we can be aligned and meet this together. And I'm sorry, at this really special time, energetically, I mean, all the other bullshit's going to ramp up. So just let that be your confirmation that things on the planet are shifting. Okay. So if you guys need anything, please reach out. I'll be back in a few days to talk about the full moon in Aries. Um, let's just see what unfolds. And of course, if you guys need anything on Instagram, YouTube, or you guys can always email me. Okay, friends, until then, deep breaths. And we got this, and I'll see you next time.